What's up, everybody, and welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite horror movies of all time, The Ring. And yes, I'm talking about the American version. Whenever I go online, it seems to me that the general consensus is that the majority of people tend to prefer Ringu, the original Japanese movie, over the American remake. And listen, I may be going out on a limb here, but I do believe that it seems to be like a trend that whenever the Americans make a remake, it's automatically worse than the original. And they're not technically wrong. 9 times out of 10, that's the case, like the movie Quarantine, which is a classic example in the horror community, but this movie is not nearly as good as the original movie Wreck. But listen, just because that's the rule for most cases doesn't mean that there aren't exceptions to that rule. And I think The Ring is an exception to that rule, because in my opinion, it is a better movie. And I must emphasize on opinion, because that doesn't mean I'm right or you're wrong or vice versa. None of that stuff. You're entitled to your opinion, I'm entitled to mine, but I will give you my thoughts and reasons why I think it's a better film. So let's begin. So look, right off the bat, I gotta get rid of my biases, because at the end of the day, I'm human and humans have personal preferences. And for me, one of those is the bluish/greenish aesthetic of the film. A lot of people count that as a negative towards that movie. I absolutely think of it as a positive, because I was born in 1999, so you have to realize I'm a 2000s baby, bro. I was born in the 90s, but like I grew up in the 2000s, and my heart definitely is with the 2000s. And a lot of the horror movies back then had that aesthetic. Movies such as Saw, Underworld, so it just feels very nostalgic for me, and it just brings me back to that happy place as a young kid watching scary movies. But the second bias that I have is that I think Naomi Watts is hot. I know that has nothing to do with the film itself, but if I were to rewatch one of these movies, I'd much rather sit down for an hour and 40 minutes and watch Naomi Watts on the big screen than this lady who I don't even know her name. No disrespect, sorry, missus.
But listen, I like girls, and on top of that, I like skinny, white, blonde girls. What can I say?
So Naomi Watts is my type. She's the protagonist of the movie. That's gonna be a big plus for the movie. Just saying, okay? It was beauty that killed the beast.
It was beauty killed the beast.
Anyways, now that we got that out the way, let's jump into the actual reasons, which I do have, why I think the American remake is better than the original. So the first aspect that I enjoy more about the American remake than the original Japanese version are the scares. I find them way more effective in this film than in the original. And I talked about this in one of my previous videos about the corpse reveal in the closet, where in the original they just show a regular face with a little bit of dark shadows and dark lighting, whereas in the remake you get this rotten face that looks like it's been decomposing for weeks. I mean, it looks way more horrific in the remake, at least in my opinion. I'm not gonna talk too much about that scene because, like I said, I have a whole separate video on it, so you can go check that one out where I'll go in depth to that scene as to why I think it's better in the remake. But let's move on to the iconic girl coming out of the TV scene, which is one of the best horror scenes of all time. I definitely think it's way better in the remake than in the original. However, this one is a tough one because there are aspects in the original that are better. Samara being locked up in that well, she was scratching at the trying to get out. So in the original, when she comes out of TV, you can see the nails missing, which is a really cool attention to detail that I think counts as a plus towards that movie. But at the same time, I find that it makes more sense in the remake that Samara is all wet because she literally just came out of a well, and her body and skin has been decomposing, so it looks all weird, which would make sense if you've been left in a well for a long period of time. You wouldn't come out of the TV looking like a goddamn perfect pilgrim. But before I get too excited, in the original, the eye scene, I think, is way more effective than in the remake, where you get to see the eye of Samara. I think there's way too much CGI, and it just kind of ruins the momentum of the scene. So that would be another plus for the original. But if you were to just look at the scenes side by side, you would have to go with the American version. It just looks more realistic, and the special effects are just better when she comes out of the TV. Moving on to the second reason why I like this movie better than the original, and that is the cinematography. Oh my God, this movie looks absolutely beautiful. The city shots, the landscape shots, and just the color grading. And I know I mentioned that at the beginning of the video where I was like, that's one of my biases, and
It makes me feel nostalgia for the 2000s.
but that's not the reason why I brought it up again. The reason why I brought it up again is because the amount of effort that the filmmakers put into this movie to get these shots is really something to admire. They did not just simply color grade the footage on a computer or a software in the post-editing process. No, they actually used camera filters. They actually played around with the lenses to get certain effects, so they had the actual bluish greenish tone on the camera as it was filming. That's pretty impressive in my opinion. And there's a YouTuber called Watching the Aerial who did a fantastic video going in depth as to how they were able to achieve this look, this color grade in the camera. So if you're interested, go ahead and check out that video. It is linked down in the description below. But yeah, I just feel like this movie looks better. It feels better. Like, this movie has a vibe, guys, okay? Like, it definitely has a vibe. Like, for a rainy day, this is the best movie. Like, I don't know if it's because they're in Seattle. I don't know if it's because it rains a lot in the movie, but when it rains, The Ring is a great movie to just put in and relax and have a gloomy day. It just is. But before I go any further, I have to give credit where credit is due, and there are certain aspects about the original that are better. For example, I appreciate Samara's backstory a lot more in the original, where her father was a scientist. He went to the scientist convention where he showed off the powers of Samara, and they thought it was the wife, and then they realized it was actually Samara or Sadako, and the dad ends up killing her because she ends up ruining his life. Versus in the original, this couple is trying to have this baby. They can't have a baby, so I think they adopt Samara, and she's just evil and can put images in people's heads. So they're just like, this is a bad apple, get rid of her. I just feel like it's not as good, you know what I mean? And then the little aspects such as towards the end of the movie when they go to the well, in the original they just legitimately go down the well because that's the whole goal, and they find the corpse down there. In the remake, for some reason, the nails of the house just start levitating and coming out of the floor, and this huge horde of flies comes out of nowhere in the well, and then the TV disconnects for no reason, slides down, hits Naomi Watts, and that's how she ends up in the well. I mean, Jesus Christ, what an overkill. So yeah, little tiny aspects like that I prefer about the original, but then again, there's aspects about the remake that I like that are better. For example, I much prefer the iconic line 7 days when she's on the phone, versus in the original you get this weird noise. It's just annoying. I'd much rather 7 days. Which brings me to my final point. The score, the soundtrack of this film. Oh my god, it's amazing. And I didn't even notice, it's Hans Zimmer who did the score. Isn't that crazy? This motherfucker's done every single at this point, it's not what movie has he done, it's what movie has he not done. God damn it. Hans Zimmer, oh yeah, what movie has he not done? That guy is a walking and living genius. I mean, everything he touches is gold. I love, just listen to this part of The Ring. It's just such a good soundtrack. I can listen to the music alone and be creeped out. Like, I don't think the original has that same effect in my spirit, in my soul. Damn, I'm getting so deeper. But you get what I'm saying. It is a fantastic soundtrack, super creepy music, definitely sets the tone of the film. And like I said, check out the soundtrack on itself on YouTube if you haven't, because it is really good and it's made by one of the greats, Hans Zimmer. But those are some of the reasons why I appreciate the American version of The Ring more than the original Japanese version. Not saying that it's a bad movie. Let's get this clear. The original Japanese Ringu is a phenomenal, iconic, classic, one of the best horror movies of all time that has impacted culture. I'm just saying that I saw the American version first. I'm American. That's the movie I grew up with. Yeah, I have my favorite, okay? But by no means does that discredit the original. I just like Naomi Watts better, bro. I think she's hot. I think the scares are better. The music's cool. I grew up with it. You get it? Capiche? All right, guys. Let me know down in the comments, which movie do you prefer? Let me know if there's any other remakes that you think the American version is better. Give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not already. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.